And I am going to have Billy Freeman come up so he can introduce our speaker.
So it's a good day to be a Bulldog. Not only do we have Coach Kevin Gillespie with us, but Gary Bowers is one of my former catchers and pitchers from years ago. Made me look like a good coach at that time. So glad to have you, Gary. This is actually, I'm going to give him credit. Keith Tobin actually lined up this program today and asked me to pinch hit for him. And if you remember a couple months ago, probably now, I did a program here and I used a yogiism. So let me give you a yogiism today. Yogi said, how can you think and hit at the same time? Well, Keith can't think very well, so I had to pinch hit for him today. And I don't know if he's on Zoom, but make sure he knows I said that. Let me just say this about Kevin Gillespie. I know you didn't come to hear the introduction; you came to hear the speaker, so I won't go too long. But I could go a long time about Kevin Gillespie. First and foremost, he's married to a Thomasville girl, so he gets points for that right out the gate. Andy Brooks was her maiden name, and they have 3 sons. Gets points for 3 boys too. Not that there's anything wrong with girls. That's what I've got. But let me clarify that. But there's a whole list of things here I can tell you about. He was a part of our state championship in 1991 as a young student assistant coach on our staff when we beat West Brunswick on Chapel Hill. He's been a part of several other state championships when he was the head coach at Page High School, the 4AA, I guess it was. And there's lots of regional championships. I'm telling you, people don't give enough credit to those regional championships because you're one step away from the state championship when you get there. And there's a lot of hard work and effort goes into that. He's coached at the Shrine Bowl. He's coached at the East-West game. He's been part of lots of conference championships. He's got 143 career wins, and I don't know if that counts last Friday or not. So maybe 144 now. But let me tell you the thing that impresses me the most about Kevin. I was on that staff when he joined us as a student assistant in 1991. And we had several people come and do student assistants, and they were great coaches. But lots of times when they saw how much work went into that, and I'm going to tell you something, it's the hardest I've ever worked in my life. 7 days a week, and the only reason it wasn't 8 because we started over on the 8th day. 7 days a week. I mean, it is a job. And lots of those student assistants would come along and try that for a little while. They decided they were going to try something else. Kevin met that work ethic head on. So it's not surprising to me that he's been successful in his coaching career because he understands the value of hard work. So I'm going to skip the rest of it and let Kevin talk to you. Coach Kevin Gillespie.
Well, thank you, Coach Freeman, for that great introduction. Made me sound a lot better than I am. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here today. I've had an opportunity, as he said, 31 years coaching, 28 teaching and coaching. When I got through playing and I wanted to be a coach, I went to Trinity High School. That's where I graduated from. My mom and dad are Thomasville people. That's where they grew up. They went to school there, graduated Thomasville High School. My mom still got her picture up in the gym for playing basketball on a conference championship team. So I was really born and raised here. Whenever we went to the store, we came to Thomasville. That's where we did. My grandparents from Thomasville. So when I wanted to be a coach, and this is one of those things that I felt like God led me to be, not I chose necessarily, but I think it was chosen for me. And I think that has a lot to do with why I'm still standing here. I chose to go to Thomasville under Coach Brown, Coach Freeman, Coach Bryant, a lot of those guys. I learned how to coach. And it was hard work, but I loved it. I loved every minute of it. So, one thing I've always said, man, if you can work a job that you don't feel like you worked a day in your life, then you're doing what you're supposed to do. And fortunately, I've been able to do it for a while, and I don't feel like I've worked a day. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to come back to Thomasville. And I hope this is where I finish. I started here. I don't look to plan on going anywhere else. This is where I want to finish. Teaching and coaching, hopefully in the state of North Carolina or period right here. And so I'm excited to be here. I talked to you guys through a Zoom meeting last year on a computer, which was kind of new to me. And I just got the job. in the spring, and a week later, they shut everything down COVID. So I didn't have a chance to meet these guys. I didn't have a chance to even say hello. So then we start I'm having to meet my team on a computer. All spring, summer, we get out there. Well, we can only have 6 in this group. We can't share a ball. We're trying to coach football and get young men ready and can't even have a ball. So then all of a sudden we go and they're going to let us play in the spring. We have 2 weeks of practice with a new staff. And we go out, we practice, and all of a sudden we had a COVID issue and we lost our first game. We couldn't play it. So we had to quarantine. Well, when you quarantine, you couldn't practice. We had 3 days of practice to play North Davidson. And we were behind the whole rest of the season. But I tell you what, credit to the young men that we have here. They stuck with it. We didn't have very many. We didn't have enough for a JV team, but they stuck with it. And we got better and better and better. And I'm so proud of those kids because they could have done a lot of other things. And they chose to come out there and deal with all of the things they had to deal with. And they still found a way to be successful. And it wasn't always on the scoreboard. Now, this year, we've had somewhat of a summer. We've had somewhat of a preseason. And the good Lord willing, I hope we don't have any major COVID issues to where we have to not be able to play any games. We got the first one under our belt. And believe it or not, we had quite a few kids that played in that game that didn't even play last year because they were ineligible. So we started off that game last week and we had a lot of wide-eyed, oh, what is this? And we finally settled down and we started to play. And when we did, good things happened. So we were fortunate. And, I know the score doesn't look like it. I know, a couple of you guys already come up and said, now that we expect that margin every week. It ain't that easy. If it was, everybody'd do it. But we have an opportunity here with a bunch of great young men. And I tell you, it's a challenge today with the kids that we have, as you know, in any school, of trying to get them to come together and play a sport like football, which to me is the greatest sport ever. There's no other sport like it, where you have to go out there in the heat. And boy, is it hot right now. I mean, it's hot enough now that where they won't even let us put pads on until 6 o'clock in the evening. So we've got to get our kids at 3:30 and we got to find a way to get creative and do stuff with them to keep them engaged before we can even go out and practice. And then I'm not going to practice them that long because it is a school night. And I'm conscious about their time. And they're coming out there every day and they're giving us everything they got. I talked to a group of them today before I came over here. They don't eat breakfast. They don't eat lunch because they don't like the lunch food. And then we got to go out there and it's 93 degrees and we got to ask them to go put a helmet on and we got to ask them to hit the guy in front of them over and over and over every day. So to me, there's no other sport like football. But to me, the reason why I'm standing up here is because football has taught me a lot of lessons about life. Just listening, a guy had, kid had COVID issues and everything. Life is going to hit you and knock you down every day. It's going to give you something. And the thing I learned as a football player and as a young coach is it's not that you're going to get hit. You're going to get hit. But you got to get back up and you got to give it your best every day. And I'm telling you, I'm so proud of these young men. And I tell them, we make mistakes. We don't always do things right. But they come every day and they get up after getting knocked down with all kinds of things. Not just the man across from them, but life. And they keep coming every day. That's something we can take pride in. I take pride in. And, it's exciting. We got Montgomery Central. That's West Montgomery and East Montgomery has merged. So it's a new school. They've been playing the last couple of years, but it's fairly new. They got a lot of seniors. They're pretty good. They're going to be a lot better than Almar. Almar was just young. They had talent, but they were young. And they hadn't had it figured out yet. But each week's going to be a challenge. In our conference, we're in a new conference. We're a 1A size school. We got 600 kids. We're in a 2A, 1A split league. So for us to go to the playoffs, we've got to beat the 1A schools in our conference. Well, we got the defending 2A state champ in our conference that we got to play. So the road's not easy, but life ain't easy. And I'm just, you know, I wasn't going to talk for, I could, but I'm not going to, because I know y'all got places to go and things to do. And plus, you probably don't want to sit up here and listen to me all day. But I am tickled to death, excited to be back here if you can't tell. And we got a great group of kids over there. And they don't always do things right, but we're working hard. So to all you guys out there, all you folks online and everything that's keeping up, and I hope you do, with the Bulldogs this season in football. And I hope you can come to every game you possibly can. I can't promise you we're going to win every game, and I can't promise you we're going to be in playing for a state championship. I'm not going to tell you we won't, but I can't promise you we will. But one thing I can promise, the coaching staff and I are going to work as hard as we can to put the best product out on the field and to teach those young men how to be young men. Now, that's what I can promise you we're going to do. And hopefully, in all of that, if we can win some games, then that's great. And I've had the opportunity to do that in, 21 years now as a head coach. I won a few. I won more than I've lost, thankfully. And but the thing that I look back on when I'm now getting a little bit later in years, I look back on the guys like Coach Freeman said with Mr. Bowers there. You look back at those guys and they call you. They come back to see you. And they're out in the world and they're being successful. That's why I do this. That's my why. That's how I was able to stick it out and deal with all the things you got to deal with and last as long as I have. So yeah, from me, I want to thank you guys for what you do, because the support that you add, not only to this community, but to the high school and to the sports program, we appreciate it too. And you probably don't hear that a lot, but we do. I do. And these kids do. And they're probably not going to come up and tell you. I hope they would, but they do appreciate it. It makes a difference. So without anything else, I'll open it up to any questions.
I know your numbers are up. Could you tell about it? And we have a JV team.
Yes, sir. Last year, we didn't have enough for a JV team. We had quite a few that were ineligible. They didn't come to school enough. And we have an attendance policy here. Their grades weren't good enough. This year, took a lot of work, but this year, a lot of summer school, we've got 53 guys. So we have enough for a JV team. We have enough for a varsity team. The JVs get to play their first game this week. Albemarle didn't have enough for a JV team. So we didn't have a game last week. We have, out of our conference, 7 teams. Now, most of them are 2A, so they're bigger size schools than us. There ain't but 3 teams with a JV team. Salisbury, West Davidson, and Thomasville. So one thing that we've tried to do is we try to recruit the halls of Thomasville High School, stay on them about acting right, doing right, coming to school, and doing their grades, because that's important too. That's the most important thing. So our numbers are up, not where we want them to be. Love to have more. But our numbers are up, and right now, we are going to have a JV team, and I hope that continues. So we're feeling pretty good about that.
What's your biggest needs? What's your biggest needs the community can help you with?
It's easy to say financial. I know one thing we did, uniforms. All right, I always try to do everything I can to leave every place better than what it was when I got there. Now, tradition wise and everything, I'm not Alan Brown. I will never be Alan Brown. He is a legend in my mind. I owe a lot to him. But football uniforms, they hadn't had football uniforms in a while. And the uniforms they had were nice looking, but up close they were. I want our kids to feel like they are special and they got the best of the best that we can provide. So we did a little fundraiser. I know a lot of you, several of you told me that those little discount cards, some guys may have approached you and you helped them out. That helped us out. Our uniforms cost $12,000. And what we got was we got a home jersey, an away jersey, and 1 pair of pants. But now we got the top cloth that's out there. Now, we didn't jazz it all up because that costs a lot more money, but the cloth is, there's no other better. And if you were there at the home game Friday night, you saw the jerseys. Now, the pants didn't come in there. They're in now, but the pants hadn't come in yet because everybody's dealing with COVID and shipping issues. But those jerseys were very sharp. Our kids were tickled to death. Well, in our fundraiser, we raised $6,000. We also had a group of men that didn't want to be named that are Thomasville grads that come in and wrote a check for the other $6,000 so we could pay for the uniform. Well, there's all kinds of stuff. You know, I had a couple of our kids today that, what'd you have for breakfast? Nothing. Well, why not? I just, do you have food at the house? Well, no, I mean, nothing healthy, nothing good. Well, all right, what are you going to eat for lunch? Nothing, I don't like school food. So they're going to go from in the evening eating a meal, and they won't eat again. And we're going to ask them to go out there in the heat and perform until the evening. So I'm getting loaves of bread and peanut butter and Pop-Tarts and whatever I can do to help fill that need so they at least have something. Those are the kind of things that a lot of people don't know that, you know, we're dealing with at a small school, place like Thomasville High School. Those are things, you know, I mean, there's all kinds of things like that. When you ask what we need, there's so much, and in all sports, not just football. That's the thing. We don't have a big revenue, and really football drives the money for all the other sports to be able to pay for the lights and the officials and just the general cost that it takes to put on any kind of sporting event. And football is really the only sport. Basketball makes a little, football is the only one that really makes any kind of money to help do that. And I know you guys were a lot of you guys helped us out last year because of COVID, and we couldn't get so many people into a game, or we wouldn't even been able to play sport. And at a place like Thomasville, or in my opinion, anywhere in the world, kids need that outlet. That's part of education. To me, that's part of it. It's part of the reason why I'm standing where I am. And I would hate not being able to do it because of not having the money for equipment or officials or whatever. And it was provided last year. And so far this year, it's been provided. So I don't know if I answered your question. You know, I don't feel real comfortable. Hey, I need this, this, and this. I'm just kind of sharing a little bit about what we got. Any other questions? Oh, somebody's got one. Either that or you're ready, tired of hearing me talk, ready to get out of here. Anything else? I try to keep it short and sweet. Like I said, I'm honored. I appreciate the invitation to be here. I'll come back anytime you want. If you're bored and you just need some ugly guy to stand up here and kind of talk to you a little bit about football, I'll be more than happy to come back. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So Kevin, thank you so much for sharing with us. I'd never really stopped to think about, often we don't get enough practice getting up. But when you play a sport like football and you get knocked down, you definitely get a lot of practice getting up. And I appreciate that analogy and you sharing that with us.